Alright, I've covered this before in other videos, but I recently had a number of people ask me how I have such a high success rate at starting cuttings, and so I thought I'd go over it again real quick. I use a rooting mix, and it's made with KLN rooting concentrate made by DynaGrow. You can order it on Amazon. It's not terribly expensive. And Superthrive. You can also order this on Amazon. It is pretty expensive for the size, but I love this stuff. I've used it for decades, and using this with a couple of drops of this in a gallon of water, if you have a plant that's dried out or been heat stressed or otherwise stressed, it will recover 10 times more effectively using this stuff, and it seems to help a lot with rooting as well. So what I'm going to do is take 3 teaspoons of KLN. Let's see if I don't know how to do this so I'm not blocking. Well, I guess it doesn't matter. 3 teaspoons. Come on. There we go. 1, 2, 3. Whoops. Okay, well, that's a little bit off, but alright, and then 1 teaspoon of Superthrive. And then I have a gallon of water that took it out of the tap and let it stand with the lid off for a couple of days to degas. So this is just tap water. I don't recommend using distilled water or filtered water because tap water has minerals in it that I think are probably beneficial for the plants, more so than distilled water will actually leach minerals out of the soil or out of a mix to reach homeostasis, and same thing with purified water. Filtered water might be okay, but I still think tap water is just fine. Alright, here's my rooting mix, and I use this a lot. I've been using it for years. Lots of different cloning. It's cloning a lot of different plants. It works really well. Alright, now on to the next step. The next part of the process is to pour the rooting mix into a large bowl or container, and I prefer to use this gigantic measuring cup because that makes it easier to pour back into the gallon jug when I'm done. And then take the plant that you're going to take a cutting of. Let's see. Alright, and so you want at least 2 and preferably 3 meristems, or 3 nodes. Each one of these nodes is a meristem, and where those meristems are is where growth occurs. And then about halfway between the 3rd and the 4th meristem down from the tip of what you're cutting, you're going to take a razor blade or a sharp instrument, or a pair of scissors or whatever, and make a quick cut. Immediately dip that end into the solution, and then I will take and I will submerge the entire cutting in the solution. If it floats up, that's okay, but you want it to really soak it in. Depends on the kind of plant that you're taking a cutting of. If it's a soft tissue plant, you only have to soak it for a few minutes, like maybe 5 to 10 minutes. With a harder woody cutting or something vine like these Hoyas are relatively stiff, relatively hard vines, not woody necessarily, but not soft like a coleus or something. And so I'm going to let this soak for an hour, and then I'll come back and we'll finish up the process. Alright, it's been an hour. Cutting thoroughly soaked in my rooting solution. Let's put it into here. Now there's a couple of options. What you want to do next is put this in soil and keep it in a high humidity environment. So I'm going to pause for a second and set up on some of the options there. Alright, if your cutting is small enough, you can make one of these little rooting chambers. You can see I've got a couple of Hoya Bella Lancelots and a tomato cutting in there that are rooting. This one's too big, so we'll go on to another option. But up here you'll see a link to how to make this rooting chamber. For larger cuttings, or for cuttings that are in pots that are being hardened off, you can get a commercially made humidity dome and tray, and I have this one filled with potting soil that has been watered with or saturated with the rooting solution, and then you just stick your plant, your cutting, in here, one end in, and then, you know, depending on how you want the rooting to occur, you can kind of prop it up or whatever, and then always put a label on it. Okay. I'm going to pause here while I write out the label. Okay. And so then you just cover it back up with the dome and leave it there. Depending on the plant, it can root within 2 or 3 weeks, or it may take 2 or 3 months. It just depends on the plant you're rooting. Hoyas will typically start putting out roots within a couple of weeks and be well established within a couple of months. So there you go.